Champions League is back after all this time, and it's time to actually predict week 7 of the Champions League. And last week, I only got 11 points, which is okay, 11 out of 36 points. And the week before, I got 9 points, so it is an improvement. And overall, I'm doing meh in my Champions League predictions, so hopefully this week can go better. Let's get predicting. Starting with bottom of the Champions League, Kairat versus Club Brugge. Both these sides aren't doing good in the Champions League. I think I'm gonna have to go with quality over anything. Even though it's a far drive or plane ride over to Kairat, I think Club Brugge should win this. They're the better squad on paper. I'm going 2-1. I'm going for a close game because Kairat, they have made their games quite close. So I can imagine this being a close game as both sides aren't looking the best in the Champions League. Over to Bodo Glimt versus Manchester City. And I was very tempted to go for a Bodo Glimt win. Last time out in the Champions League, Man City did win against Real Madrid 2-1. But in terms of their form, they have beaten Newcastle in the Qarabag Cup 2-0. But against Newcastle, in the first half in particular, they could barely get a shot off. And against Man United, the same thing sort of happened. They didn't create enough shots. They had all the possession, but classic Pep Guardiola style of playing, possession style football. Normally, the caveat of that is having boring games where you keep on passing it, but you don't actually proceed to go into the opposition's penalty box. And going away all this way to Bodo Glimt, which people always go on about the conditions being very hard to play at. I could see Bodo Glimt winning this. Then saying that, Man City, they haven't won for 4 games in the Premier League. Surely now, like on paper, Man City destroy Bodo Glimt. And I just want to go logical. I just want to go for the better side. I'm going Manchester City 3-1. If you would go for a Bodo Glimt win, I understand why. Man City lost to Man United. I mean, come on, Martinez had Haaland in his back pocket. But I think Man City are going to show a reaction. Villareal versus Ajax. Ajax, they have not been playing well in the Champions League. I know they won, but they won against Qarabag. I know Qarabag are good. Well, I say good. They're obviously not good on paper, but they have been playing better than everyone thought they would, including myself. But for that to be your only win in the Champions League, it's not really the best, is it? And the fact that you still conceded 2 goals, I think you're going to concede goals again, especially that you conceded 6 against Alkmaar. 6, you lost 6-0 in the cup. That is awful, Ajax. The fact that you're away from home against Villareal, who I would say are playing way better than you. At least way better in their domestic league than Ajax. They are. I'm going to say 2-1 to Villareal because in the Champions League, they haven't been looking the best. So I could imagine Ajax making this a close game. But away from home as well, Villareal should have them in their back pocket. Tottenham Hotspur at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A very imaginative stadium name. Versus Dortmund. There's going to be goals in this. There has to be goals. It's a Dortmund game. There is always goals. Dortmund only scored 2 in the last Champions League game, which is the first time in the Champions League season that Dortmund haven't scored 4 goals. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Tottenham, they are playing absolute poo under Thomas Frank, which is surprising because Thomas Frank I really did rate at the start of the season because I always thought his tactics were very adaptive to certain situations. It feels like no manager is going to be able to stop Tottenham from being a mid-table madam in the Premier League. So maybe it's the players that are the problem. Either way, Tottenham, there's no way you're winning this. Dortmund have been drawing. They draw against Frankfurt. And they even drew against Bodo Glimt, which makes me feel like Tottenham has a chance. Maybe if Dortmund was home, but still, you know, they had a close game against St. Pauli. So I'm going 2-2. I've got trust in Tottenham. I think Tottenham will be able to hit top 10. I think they've got enough squad depth to hit top 10 in the Premier League. And I think in terms of the Champions League form, it isn't terrible. They've always kept it a close game, other than against Slava Praha. They won 3-0 deservedly. Although Slava Praha just never scores. So, Olympiacos versus Leverkusen. El Kahabi, the main striker everyone always talks about for Olympiacos. He went to AFCON. He's going to be very tired from AFCON, so I don't think he's going to play. At least I've heard he's probably not going to play. That's a crucial striker missing. I don't think they're going to score. Not even one. I think Leverkusen is going to actually win this. On paper, I think Leverkusen are better. And Olympiacos has not impressed me, like, whatsoever. And the fact that they don't have El Kahabi going into this game, I don't think. I could be wrong. I think Leverkusen are going to win this 3-0. Sporting versus Paris Saint-Germain. Paris haven't been perfect. Even though they did win the Champions League last year, I think they lost to Paris, didn't they? Very odd, that one. Sporting, I've got a good chance to nick a point, but I feel like I'm going for the obvious teams. But I am still going with PSG 2-1 win. I'm so tempted to change it, but I'm going to maintain with PSG winning. Inter Milan versus the Gunners. I think the Gunners are going to get a clean sheet. I mean, Liverpool even managed to get a clean sheet against Inter Milan earlier on in the Champions League. And Arsenal's defence is absolutely astounding. They only conceded one, and that was against Bayern Munich. They've won every single one of their Champions League games. 6 out of 6. Maybe they do want to rest up for the Premier League, but I have a feeling it's going to be classic. Arsenal are going to make loads of chances, get a bunch of shots, and then maybe like a penalty makes it 1-0 Arsenal. Or a tapping goal from a corner. You know how good Arsenal at set pieces, and it's going to go 1-0 to Arsenal. I mean, look at their games recently. It's been quite low scoring. 2-0-0s with Liverpool and Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. It's going to be low scoring, and I was tempted to go for another 0-0, but I couldn't do it. I feel like 1-0 is such an Arsenal scoreline. Real Madrid versus AS Monaco. AS Monaco, 4 defeats on the bounce now. I think it's obvious. Away from home against Real Madrid. I know Real Madrid haven't looked perfect, losing to the likes of Man City. I'm going 4-1 Real Madrid. I think they're going to run away with it. Monaco, I have not been impressed. Copenhagen versus Napoli. 3-0 Napoli. I know Napoli, every single one of the games in Serie A have been close, but it's Copenhagen. I've seen Copenhagen play against Tottenham, for example, and they looked absolutely terrible. Like, terrible. And I cannot imagine a Napoli side, which I rate highly. Maybe I overrate Napoli a lot of the time, but even so, I think they are so much better than Copenhagen. 3-0 Napoli. Sorry, Copenhagen. It's just my opinion. Galatasaray versus Atletico Madrid. Now, Osimhen, they have been missing. Okay, Galatasaray fans must be screaming with pain. To lose to your main rivals, Fenerbahce, in the final is awful. And you have really been missing Osimhen up front. He is such a crucial striker. You're lackluster in goals. Definitely, but I'm pretty sure he's back for this game. So I'm giving you 2 goals, Galatasaray, but I'm giving Athletic Club 3 goals. I said Athletic Club. I'm so sorry, Atletico Madrid. Not Athletic Club. 3-2 to Atletico Madrid. Yeah, it's going to be a close game. Galatasaray is going to get back on the score sheet, but it's not going to be enough. Atletico Madrid just have more pedigree. Qarabag versus Frankfurt. Frankfurt, they're being a bit iffy, and they're conceding a lot of goals. And Qarabag's backline has also been conceding goals, and I haven't been impressed. So really, you look at both sides, this is where it's going to be a 0-0 after I'm saying such a high-scoring game, but surely the amount of goals these sides are conceding. I mean, Frankfurt's had like 2 3-all draws and a 3-2 loss recently. I'm expected loads of goals. Qarabag has been kind of that random team. I think I've probably gone every single Qarabag prediction completely wrong. I must have. I'm just quickly curious, did I get Qarabag right last week? No, I actually backed them. I said 2-all against Ajax. They lost to Ajax, which was most probably the worst side in the Champions League. But not anymore, because Qarabag lost to them. And I think now they're starting to lose Qarabag. Frankfurt's going to carry on and win 5-2. Qarabag's going to go back to reality. Qarabag, I don't think you're going to hit the playoffs. Marseille versus Liverpool. You never know. Liverpool have been drawing a lot in the Premier League. Credit to them against, whatchamacallit, Arsenal. But then against Barnsley, they did win 4-1, which is good and all. They didn't look like the best against Barnsley, even though they won 4-1. Against Arsenal, they looked good. Defensively especially. Against Burnley, they couldn't win against Burnley. Bizarres me. How did they not win against Burnley? They're in the relegation zone. So it makes me feel like this could go either way. But I've got a feeling Liverpool, you have a better. Do you have a better side than Marseille at the moment? That's a good question. I've got it down 3-2 Liverpool, but honestly, you could go either way. I think maybe it's just English biasness, and maybe I've got more knowledge in Liverpool, so it feels like Liverpool are better than Marseille. I'm going 3-2 because Marseille have some. They score loads of goals, but then Liverpool in the Champions League have been looking good, and they haven't been looking terrible in the Premier League either, Liverpool. Give Liverpool a bit of credit. I think they're going to win that 3-2. Newcastle United at St James's Park versus PSV. Harvey Barnes is Newcastle's best winger. Gordon is also a great winger, and I don't know who's going to start, whether it's Harvey Barnes or Gordon, but Gordon seems to play really well in the Champions League, and even though a lot of people think he's very overrated, I agreed massively last season about that, and at the start of this season, that Gordon was overrated. He fell over a lot. He didn't create much in terms of goals and goal contributions like assists. But I do have to admit, his delivery into the box in terms of passing, I feel like has improved, and his determination to also, and his work rate to get back defensively, I feel like has improved. To win back the ball for the team, I feel like has improved, and I feel like his work rate's been very good. And I feel like he could have more goal contributions if players like Voltemade actually was clinical and got into a bit better positioning. Because Voltemade, I've been not impressed with Voltemade. Maybe he's not a striker, like a proper striker, even though he is 6'6" or whatever. But I think Newcastle have been struggling to score, and I think Wissa in this game at home, I think we should start Wissa up front. If you're going to bring Voltemade on, play him behind Wissa. Play Voltemade as a hold-up striker. But even then, a lot of Voltemade's first touches, he looks like a very clumsy player. But because Newcastle are home, and home advantage is crazy, I'm going 2-1. If Newcastle were away, I'll probably go for a draw. PSV has been looking good. Slavia Praha versus Barcelona. I'm sorry, Slavia Praha. I rate your defense to a certain point, but when it's against one of the best teams in the Champions League, you've already proved against other really good high-quality teams that you lose 3-0. I think you've lost 3-0 3 times, and the only times you draw, it's like 0-0. Other than the first time where you drew 2-2. But you've only scored 2 goals. Other than that, you've scored 0 in all the other games in the Champions League. So you're probably going to score 0 again, even though Barcelona throughout the season defensively hasn't been amazing, and I know Yamal isn't going to be available for this game, but they've got great squad depth, Barcelona. Great pedigree on the bench that they don't necessarily need against a quality team like Slavia Praha. They don't need Yamal to play this game, and they can still play really well. 3-0 Barcelona, another 3-0. Sorry Slavia Praha, you just never score. Juventus versus Benfica. Juventus. You're a team which I always associate to drawing, so I'm going to go for a draw. 1-1. Benfica under Jose Mourinho. Has it been an improvement? If it has been an improvement, it's only been a slight improvement, but still it's not perfect Benfica. But then Juventus, I don't think it's perfect either. I think this looks like a draw all round, and because it's Jose Mourinho in charge of Benfica, it's going to be low scoring. Chelsea versus Paphos. Paphos, you're not making it into the playoffs, and Chelsea, maybe I've overrated Chelsea this season, saying they're going to finish 4th or 3rd in the Premier League, and that they're going to win the entire Champions League. Yes, in my Champions League predictions, I said they're going to win it entirely. Not finish 1st in the Champions League table, but win the finale of the Champions League. But I have to admit, under Liam, I can't pronounce his last name, but Liam, their new manager, I feel confident, especially at home against Paphos, which, I mean, come on squad depth. Player for player, sometimes you're just going to have to look at quality, and Chelsea are just better. With a new manager, it has to be 2-0 to Chelsea. There's no way Paphos is going to get anything. This season, in the Champions League, Paphos, they have had some close games, but really, I think of them as a 0-0 side, and they just don't have enough in the attack to threaten Chelsea's defence, or even Sanchez. Bayern Munich versus Royal Union St. Golossal. Bayern Munich's gonna batter Union 5-0. They've been doing very good in the Belgium League, but this isn't the Belgium League, this is Bayern Munich. The only team to beat Bayern Munich, I think, is Arsenal. They are 11 points clear of Dortmund in the Bundesliga, and the Bundesliga is a harder and more intense league than the Belgium League. Bayern Munich is at home. Union St. Golossal has been battered by quite a few teams in the Champions League. And the fact that you're playing the second best team in the Champions League at the moment, Bayern Munich, you've got no chance. You've already been thrashed multiple times, Union St. Golossal. Bayern Munich's going to walk the floor 5-0. Easy. Atalanta versus Atletico Club Bilbao. I just haven't been convinced with Athletic Club at all. I don't think I've been convinced under the management. So away from home against Atalanta, who knocked out beat Chelsea. I think the fact that they beat Chelsea and Atalanta I've been impressed with Atalanta in the Champions League. I'm going 2-1 to Atalanta, especially at home. Athletic Club, I've not been impressed. Atalanta should win that. I have to do week 5 goal of the week. And for week 5, Vitinha. In that amazing 5-3 thriller game to PSG, Vitinha, what a goal. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Madueke's goal has to be even better than week 5's goal of the week. Amazing. And eventually, all these goal of the weeks, I'm going to put them together and find out who was goal of the year for the Champions League. Toodaloo.